It is really cool to end our summer with you guys. In a sense, we got one more family conference. We've been all over the place. Been to New Mexico, northern Minnesota, and all in between. And got a cracked rib a couple weeks ago playing football. Came home with 101 fever. But it's all good. So if I make it through, if I don't cough too much, Linda goes, "How are you going to speak?" I said, "Well, I'll just cough on the students in the front row, and that'll be kind of fun." So it is a privilege to, it's a privilege to be with you guys. And just a quick thanks again to all of your youth leaders. You know, my mom passed away, went to heaven this last winter. And these guys, your youth leaders loved our family, man. It was incredible. So we're saying, yay, God, for you guys, and just the privilege to hang out and be with you. All of you guys, it's a way cool thing. Say way cool.
Way cool.
Like way cool. Like it's way cool to be back in school.
Yeah.
Yo, it's way cool to be back in school. Yo, it's way cool to be back in school. Kelsey, you're all over that. Put a little Jesus in it there. Yeah, you guys. Yo, it's way cool to be back in school. Yo, it's way. You're not digging it. Okay, you guys over here. Yo, it's way cool to be back in school. Yo, it's way cool to be back in school. Yo, it's way cool to be back. Yo, it's way cool to be back. They don't want to go to school over there. But they're like, there is no way. There is no way. So I was, it's like, get out of town. So, but it's a privilege to be with you guys. So you may have to put up with my coughing and hacking a little bit, and I'll try to keep those things that are in the chest that want to fly out once in a while. Keep them in. I was speaking a few years ago in Salem, Oregon. I had pneumonia. I had like pneumonia really bad. So I was speaking on a Sunday morning at this church, like I'll do next Sunday from this Sunday, and I was coughing horrible, but I was taking stuff so I wouldn't like launch a loogie thing, you know. And make sure you get all this on video and throw it on YouTube, right? So I was, I just felt it coming. You know how you feel it coming, a tickle, and then it got there, and it just like I coughed and shot this missile out. I mean, it just went shoo, and there was this little old lady in the front pew, and I could see it going right for her forehead, and it was like she's going, "Oh no!" and it went shot her right there, She slumped over, and she went to heaven. So it was kind of a weird. No, I'm just kidding. They're like, "Did she really go to see Jesus? Did your little loogie thing kill her?" No, it didn't. But it could have, because I have powerful loogies. So, so enough of that stuff. I was thinking about my father the other day. You guys you think about your parents? And I was thinking about stories about my dad when he was a little boy. My uncle told me this from his past, my father's past. He was a little guy, and he said that, he was having a birthday party when he was like 10 or 11 and invited all of his friends. So they were showing up at my father's house somewhere in Chicago. And, all of a sudden this kid showed up and he didn't have a present. So there was this dialogue between my father and this kid, my uncle said. And then our past is weird. My father drew his fist and just punched him in the face and knocked him right off the step. And he said, "You didn't bring me a present. That's what you deserve." I've often wondered why I'm like I am, I mean, our past affects our lives. I have a great-grandmother that got really angry at her daughter-in-law because she had bought, the husband had bought, the husband of the daughter had bought, which was her son, had bought this is back in the 1800s, had bought a brand new pair of shoes for his wife. And she wanted them. So she took the shoes and she used them for a porta potty. She went poopies in them. She was so angry she went poopies in them, and then she hid them under the steps. So then when the daughter-in-law walked up, she went, "What's that?" "Oh, it's my new shoes," right? So my father punched my great-grandmother, used little shoes for a porta potty. So people say, why are you so strange and weird? Because our past affects our lives. Our genealogy affects our lives. I'm Scotch-Irish and I'm German. So in my flesh, I love a good fight. I mean, I really do, because that's who my genealogy is. It's Scotch, Irish, and German. And those people, if you go back through history, They were always fighting somebody or they were fighting one another. So you think about your past, you think about all of it. In my family, Scotch-Irish moonshiners, running moonshine through the hills of North Carolina. Anybody relate to that? You know what that is, moonshiners? That's making illegal alcohol and hauling it all over the place. And great, so I could tell you incredible stories, but we don't have time to go through that. And then I have Mennonite pastors. Lots of them in my family heritage. So I've got a great-grandmother who poops in shoes because she's angry. I've got a father who got angry because he didn't get a birthday present, punched a guy and knocked him down the stairs. But then I've got moonshiners and I've got Mennonite pastors in my family. So you look at your past. Oh, Revolutionary War soldiers in my family who fought down along the South Carolina border with a guy named Francis Marion, perhaps the Swamp Fox. You know that name? Or I've got Civil War guys in my family on the southern side primarily who fought against the North, and they were in the 26th Regiment at Gettysburg. So incredible, you go back and you look through your history. All of that shapes our lives. All of our past. One of my best buddies years ago, we were down at Moody Bible Institute, where you guys just were, and I was doing a conference, and he said, hey man, he said, you know what, take me down to Chicago where you grew up. I said, you don't want to go. He said, no, I really want to go. I want to see why you're who you are. You're just, you're so unique and different and just weird and strange. I said, I grew up in the alleys. I grew up in the alleys with the rats. I grew up in apartment buildings. I mean, the rats were our pets. We played in the garbage cans with the maggots. He goes, you are weird. The dog poop was our grenades. We let it harden and we threw it at each other, had wars. So you go back. So I took him down to the inner city of Chicago by Humboldt Park and drove him around. He said, get me out of here, man. I'm scared to death. I said, why? I'm going to open the door and let you out so you can enjoy my past. So I did, kicked him out and laid him on the street. He was screaming when I left him. He may still be there to this day. Just kidding. But the other part of it's true. I didn't kick him out. But we did drive back, and he said, I know why you are so strange. Your past, I just gave you little snippets. Your past, my past, affects who we are today and the future. Didn't somebody say this? Who said this? If you don't know where you've come from, if you don't know who you are, you won't really know the direction you should possibly be going. That's something to think about. I'm not sure all of that is true, but it's something to think about. So do you know your past? Do you know your spiritual past? I grew up in a Christian home. Anybody? Christian homes? My father was a pastor. All of my Sunday school teachers I tortured. For years, because, I didn't want to go to Sunday school. It's like, go to Sunday school? Why would you want to do that? And yet I claimed to be a Christian throughout all those years. I didn't want to go to Sunday school and didn't want to go to church. So I've got a spiritual past. I actually sang on the radio, Moody Bible Institute, when I was a little boy. You know the song, Only a Boy Named David? Anybody? It's the story of David and Goliath. An old song, Sunday school song. I got through singing that song. It was called the Aunt Teresa Hour on Moody Radio, WMBI Radio, which has really changed to this day. So I'm on there singing this little song, and this Aunt Teresa, who was the host of the show, she said, well, Chucky? I said, well, Aunt Teresa? She said, what's that song all about? And on radio that went all through Chicago, I said, I don't know. And that's really kind of for a lot of us. It can be that way. I grew up in what's called a Protestant family, a Protestant church. And a lot of people go today, even this day, they go, what the heck is a Protestant church? What would that be? Well, the word Protestant, it comes from a German word called Kriegsname, which means to be a protester, to protest against something. So I grew up in a church that protested against something. Of course, the question is, there was a whole bunch of Protestant churches. In fact, you're both churches that are here, the Switch, and I think that's the Switch, right, you guys? And then Fuel and Journey. You guys are what would be called a Protestant church. But the question is, what is that? Where did that come from? A guy named David Barna, who does all kinds of surveys about churches and church history today and past, says the term Protestant will be gone within 10 years from now. In fact, it'd probably be interesting to run through the room and take a survey and say, hey, what is a Protestant church? Maybe we should do that if you're not going to be too upset at me. So, question, what would be a Protestant church?
church that's not Catholic.
Oh, is that true or false? Or the word Catholic simply means what? What does the word Catholic mean? It's the Latin word simply means to be what? To be what? What's that word mean? Anybody? Catholic? It just means Christian. And that word was thrown all over the place, kind of universal Christianity. So the word Catholic, so really you wouldn't say a Protestant is not a Christian. So, you're wrong. Okay, here we go. But we love you with your hair. It's lovely. Here we go. So, what about you? What, now you're going, don't ask me. I thought that's what it was. Maybe a Protestant is not a Hindu or a Buddhist, although they're lovely people. And if you go to Colorado, they're all on the lawn. No, okay, here we go. So, that's a whole nother, you find them sitting out there with lava lamps. So, what's a Protestant?
A
Slapped. Here we go. I know.
that they don't.
Okay, a church that they don't. Okay, now I'm not doing this to be a creepy, although I am a creepy guy. I'm not doing this to be a stinker or a rascal. Let's go over here and ask some of your leaders. Oh, I love to mess with your leaders. And I was speaking at a camp, I don't know, a week ago or so, and I said, I'm going to talk to you leaders. And they were all like, oh, don't talk to us. So we'll come over here. Let's pick on Angela. Yes. No, I've changed my mind. Let's pick on Graham. Okay, well, no, he wants to play the game, so sorry. If I wrap the cord around your neck, you probably won't die, but at least right now. So here we go. Because this is important. If your church is Protestant, I grew up Protestant, we've got a spiritual past. Hopefully, people like my father, aren't throwing punches still in the Protestant church, or my grandmother's. All kinds of, yeah. So, young lady, would you play the game? You want a free trip to the BVI? Your husband's included. Here we go. British Virgin Islands. Oh, it's wonderful. It's where God created the earth. Here we go. So what is a Protestant? What's a Protestant church?
I don't know. I always thought it was a pro something, but it sounds like it's against something.
Oh, it's pro something. Well, the point is this. It is pro and it's against. You say pro. You say against. You say pro. You say against. Against what? What were they against, these Protestant heretics? They were pro something. Oh, she's got a hand raised. My microphone cord won't reach that far. So if you'd love to come to the front, we just have a moment here to elaborate some more. Would you come to the front or stand, please, with your answer? What is a Protestant church? Well, that is a pretty good answer, except we've already determined that the term Catholic means Christian, kind of a universal word for Christian. So you're kind of on it, but you're off it. But that was good. Let's hear it for her. That was very good. Yeah. So who are you guys? You are. Who are you? Yeah, I love that stuff. So say the word Protestant. Roll your R. It's a good word. The word, again, German is Kriegsname. Say Kriegsname. So you've got a spiritual past, and really, it is, in this room at least, it would be called Protestant. Now, I want to give you a summary. My goal is throughout our time together, which is we're trying to compress a whole bunch of information into a short time. So I want to have some fun, but I want you to think. Because this issue of what is a Protestant is crucial to your eternal destiny. It really is. You may not think it is, and a lot of us are going, man, if it is, why don't I know what it means? But that's the point. The point is, it's our past, a very crucial part of our past, but we're really not sure what it's all about. And this guy Barna says it's going to be gone because people within the church, Protestant, don't think it's important anymore. Because words like being tolerant or ecumenical are much more important than the word Protestant, which is a huge part of our past that connects us all the way back to the seed that produced the roots of our faith, and then the beautiful flower or tree, which is called the church. So I want to give you a little bit of a summary of, and in your book you've got that beautiful crossword word search down there. You guys can take some time to have some fun with that. And you're not going to have time to do it right now, but we just got to keep moving. But you can do it tonight when you go back to your cabins and work on those words. So in your book, so you got this. Now I want you to give me your eyes and listen to this. Here we go. So the Protestant is a faith. It's a faith, it's a person, it's a group of people. It's a system of thinking. Protesters that protested against something. Now, I want to give you a compressed history of what they protested against. You got to listen or you won't get this. My goal is to frighten you a little bit. I want you to have some fun a little bit, and then I want you to follow up and go after this to find out who you're really supposed to be. It's very important for all of us in this room. So, let's think for a moment together. At one time, so a summary of what would be called the Protestant faith, or the true faith, or the faith, definite article. So a lot of big words. I want you to have fun. I want to scare you a little bit, frighten you a little bit, but I want you to follow up on this stuff because you're not going to get it all this weekend. I'm not here just to tell you a bunch of funny stories. You know, I can do that, but we're on a little bit of a different journey this weekend. So let's go back. So the church began when? When did the church begin? What we would call the Christian church. It began at a time called Pentecost. Jesus, we're going to compress this. Jesus showed up. Mary at Bethlehem, he comes through Mary at Bethlehem, God in the flesh. He's going to cause some guys to follow him. They're going to become followers and believers of his teachings. What were they? How crucial are they? And do they connect to what's called the Protestant faith? Or are they common to all faiths, such as Roman Catholicism, or Hinduism, or Buddhism, or perhaps all the isms, Islam? So there are issues and there are differences. And right now we all know that Christians are being killed over in the Middle East because of their faith, because of the faith. Well, what is that faith? So Jesus comes, he's got teachings. He calls men, they follow him. In Acts chapter 1 and 2, the church explodes with the teachings of Christ. And those teachings are taught all through what's called Asia or Asia Minor. You know the stories of the apostles, the Apostle Paul and the Apostle Peter, and they took the gospel with certain, foundational principles that can never be compromised because they come right from the seed which produced roots, which gave us the church, the beautiful tree. And so those guys went out and they taught. In about the 5th century, a guy named Constantine. Anybody? I mean, there's a whole bunch of people in between like Tertullian and Augustine and Chrysostom, and I could go off and name all of these people, but somewhere around the 5th century, a guy named Constantine, who was the emperor of the world at the time, said, you know what we're going to do? Now listen carefully. We're going to take the church that comes from Christ and through the apostles and those specific teachings, and we're going to center it in a city, and that city is called Rome. And so Christianity, Catholicism, one church from Christ. Listen now, summary of the history of your genealogy spiritually. An emperor said we're going to put it in Rome. It's going to be there. And the leadership will be there. I mean, come on, Paul was there and Peter was there. But because we're human beings and the apostles were gone and now Christ had ascended, the church was left with the Word of God to govern itself. But because we're corrupt, we're men, we're people, we have pride and we have fleshly desires. We're prideful. We love power. We love possessions. Or there was a period called the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages. Anybody? Out of that comes, things like we get, like, in a sense, Lord of the Rings and all Narnia Tales. All that stuff kind of creeps out of there if you really think about it and see all the connections. If you begin to connect the dots. And so Rome develops a system called Roman Catholicism. And around the 11th century, because men became corrupt, they said, we will control the people. The scriptures now, the Bible was removed, taken away, and they said, we'll control people through this city of Rome. with our system called, now it's going to, some of you guys are going to go, man, this is too much. You're blowing my brains. It's like school through our system called sacerdotalism, or a system of sacraments or works or things you do. That was a huge deviation, a huge heresy, moving away from what the seed Christ taught that produced the roots, which were the principles of our faith, and the apostles and the church, and it moved away. And the church became dark and became gloomy. And people were persecuted if they at all said, we don't believe in this Romanistic expression of the true faith. And so all kinds of religions developed. I mean, in the Middle Ages, Muhammad said he got his Quran from a visit from God through an angel, a divine being, and then we have the Quran, and it came there. And so all kinds of religions began to explode. Listen to the word, religions, not connected with the seed or the roots, but they said that they were. And so it became confused, and it became dark. And around the 12th century, somewhere there, God began to light what was called fires all over Europe. Started with a guy named John Wycliffe, another guy named Peter Waldo, another guy named John Huss, another guy named Savonarola. And these men, God began to ignite with his sovereign grace, which we sang about, and drove them back to the foundational principles, the roots, all the way back to the seed, and they began to go all over Asia Minor, all over Europe, and began to teach back to Christ and those principles, and that what was happening in what was called the church today was corrupt and wrong. It's called the Reformation. Martin Luther was the last guy around 15, 17, 19, nailed the 95 Theses to the door, and Rome exploded and said, kill the heretics. So the church became corrupt. The doctrines became corrupt. The doctrines became confused. And that was 500 years ago. And now those men are gone. The Wycliffes and the Zwinglies and the Luthers. And so they taught, and they taught. And once again, over 500 years, just like right now, if I whispered in her ear one or two words and said, pass it on, the old phone game, I promise you by the time it got back there, it would be all different. And because men seek power, and men are prideful, and men love possessions, what happened is the church, which came from the roots, the teachings of Christ, in a sense was lost. And the question is, what do you do about it? Well, what do we do? Well, we're here this weekend to think through, how do we go back to our roots? I told you some funny stories about my dad punching somebody and my great-grandma pooping in shoes, but that's all just to get you thinking about the past. But how do we go back to our roots, which is absolutely essential? We live in an age today that thinks tolerance. Everybody's okay as long as they throw the name Jesus out. Everybody's okay if they have some common words. But how do we go back? What are we really in danger of? And what were those foundational principles, the pillars that are so important to the faith? You got your books. There are 5 of them in there, okay? When I say go, everybody read them out loud, nice and loud, all together. They're right there. They're called the solas, and the word sola means what? Alone. And the word tota means all. So just read them the way they are. When I say go, just read them all together. Ready? Go. Yeah, that's good. Let's just have all the ladies. Ready? Ladies, read them. Go. Yeah, the word there is, you can say fide. It's really sola fide. Say fide. Yeah, fide sounds like something where the band and I were talking about it. Something like it's in a bathroom. I don't know. It just doesn't sound fide. It sounds weird. So sola fide. Say sola fide. Faith alone. Sola Gratia. Grace alone. Solas Christus. Christ alone. Sola Scriptura. Say it with some Italian flair, right? Sola Scriptura. Like when you go to Macaroni Grill and you stand in the bathroom and you're trying to go potty and you hear, and I'm going, leave me alone, I'm working here, right? Say it with some Italian flair. All right? Ladies, some Italian flair with Sola Scriptura. Ready, ladies? Go! Sola Scriptura. I like it so much. It makes me want to go get some food from some place. Okay, guys? Give me your best sola fide. Ready? Go. Sola fide. That's like the Godfather, you know? Hey, I'm talking to you, no? Sola fide. Sola bedini. Maragaboni. That's on film. I'm going to jail now. Okay, here we go. Ready? Everybody together. Sola Gratia. Ready? Sola Gratia. Oh, that's nice. Now I want you to look at three people and say, Sola Gratia. Go. Sola Gratia. Sola Gratia. Sola Gratia. I love that stuff. Now, here's a good one. Solas Christus. Solas Christus. Ready? Here we go. Ready? Solas Christus. Okay, look at three people and do it that way. Scare them. Go, scare them. Solas Christus. Solas Christus. Solas Christus. Now, here we got a good one. We got this one. This is like a lasagna, fettuccine, Olive Garden, right? Here we go. Ready? Soli Deo Gloria. Soli Deo Gloria. Yeah. It makes me want to just, Soli Deo. It makes me want to be an Italian soprano. Soli Deo. I love it so much. Ready? Together. Ready? Your best Soli Deo Gloria. Ready? Soli Deo Gloria. Oh, I love it so much. And it means glory to God. Oh, now, here we go. All right, so now we had some fun with them words. You go home, your parents say, what'd you learn? Soli. And they're going to say, son, why are you doing that? What's wrong with you? What happened at that retreat? So here we go. So now here we go. I got a little ditty. You know what a ditty is? Here we go. Ready? It's this. And we're going to put the ditty up on the ditty screen. This is over here to the ditty screen. Oh, look at this. Now here, just here, give me your eyes. Don't look at that. Look at me. Look at me. I am your conductor. Now I'm German. You will do what I want. Are you Dummkaffen? Ja. Was ist da los, woman? Well, you little squints. I'm a little bit of an Irish leprechaun. There we go. So here we go. Ready? Watch this. Here we go. Ready? It's going to go like this. I'm going to do it slow. We're going to do it together. It's going to be fun, man. Going back to the past, going digging for my roots. Going back to the past, got to find what's going to last. You got to raise it up, man. We ain't going to see. Going digging for my roots. The bottom part's so important. We're missing the bottom part, man. Look, can you lift that screen? Come on, lift it. What? Yeah. No. Well, it goes like this. Don't burn. Don't burn. It goes like this. A sola here, a sola there, a sola everywhere. Oh, it's so good. Try it. Ready? A sola here, a sola there, a sola everywhere. Yo! See, okay, are we ready? A little faster. Ready? Ready? Here we go. Going back to the past, going digging for my root. Going back to the, it's gotta find what's gonna last. Going back to the past, going digging for a sola here, a sola there, a sola everywhere. Just all the leaders. Come on, leaders, everybody up. Leaders, here we go. All the leaders, come on. Yeah. Leaders. Yeah. Tanner, come on, buddy. Get up. Rich, come on. Mike, come on. Ready? These are your leaders. Don't you love them? Let's hear it for your leaders. I'm going to help them. a little bit. Ready? Here we go. Ready? Leaders, come on. Show them that you got, Mike, show them that you got it now. You know what I'm talking? Hey, you talking? Hey, I'm talking to you. You talking to me? I'm talking to Rich. Here we go. Ready? Ready? 2, 3, going back to the past, going for my root, going back to the past, gotta find what's gonna last, going back to the past, digging for A sola here, a sola there, a sola everywhere. Woo! Yeah. Now, just the ladies. Ladies, please. All ladies up. Come on, ladies. Come on, ladies. Come on, ladies. Come on, ladies. Here we go, ladies. Ready? Ladies, I want you to show the guys that you are involved in this. Ready? Oh, 2, 3, going back. Oops. Oh, oh. To the past. What? Here, a sola everywhere. Yeah, ladies. Let's hear it for the guys. Come on, guys. Come on. Everybody up. Come on, men. Ready? Guys, a little faster. Guys, hey, guys, show me some stuff, all right? Give me some stuff. Ready? Ready? 2, 3, going back to my past. Going digging for my root. Going back to the past. It's gonna last. Going back to the past. Going digging for a sola here, a sola there, a sola everywhere. Everybody together. Here we go. Ready? Ready? 2, 3, going back. Digging for my roots. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Going back to the past. Going digging for a sola here, a sola there, a sola everywhere. Yeah, grab a seat. Yeah. Turn in your Bibles to Ephesians 2, real quick. Ephesians chapter 2. We got to go before they get the hook and pull it on my throat and throw me out in the field so the chipmunks eat my flesh. Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 4. I want to deal with one sola real quick. I want to deal with this, and I want you to think about, I want you to remember that little rap thing, the little roots rap thing. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. Let me read this to you. I want to read this to you. Listen. Well, look at verse 1, all right? Look at verse 1. And you were dead. Give me your eyes. Paul writes, a loving friend writes to friends who are confused about their roots. And he wants them to sort it out in their brains. He wants them to understand it's not by systems and things that you do. The seed Christ taught. The roots were developed. The apostles spread it and the church blossomed. And then it got dark and it got sick and it got gross, and it's back again today to a certain degree gross. Through tolerance and through ecumenism and through a lack of ignorance and understanding about that which is really important, you guys. So he says you were dead. Paul says you were dead. You were incapable of any spiritual life. Just like, give me your eyes. It says in Genesis, when God created Adam, he breathed into his nostrils. When a Christian is born again, the Spirit of God breathes into the spiritual nostrils and gives life. So he's reminding them it doesn't come through any other power, any other force, physical or supernatural, than the sovereign, kind, loving, favor, grace of God. That's what I want you to walk away with. That's root. That's a huge root that came from Christ. The Pharisees said, no, you got to keep the law. The Sadducees, no, you got to keep the law. Hinduism says you got to do this, and Romanism says you've got to do this. And Islam says we've got our pillars. And there is great confusion within what's called those of us who are supposed to be protesting against and for truth that came from Christ. We embarrass him and we dishonor him by being careless. It's very sad. It breaks my heart. I told myself, I said, I got to be careful. I could go off on this. We could be here till 3 a.m. You're going to go, you can't do that to us. I wouldn't do that to you. But this burns in my heart because I love people and I love Christ more than people. And I want to be a warrior for truth, you guys. I don't want you to be dumb and ignorant. It's not that Reg has been teaching you dumb things or ignorant things, but there is so much confusion that runs through our brains that comes through media and books and all kinds of issues. And the enemy doesn't want us to think. So we got to go back to the past. It says you were dead. And he goes on and says, in trespasses and sin in which you once walked according to the courses will find the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that's now working in the sons of disobedience, among whom we all once lived. He's talking to those who were Christians. Now look at verse 4. But God, you were dead, but God. You were dead, but God. Shout that out. You were dead, but God. Shout it. That is not shouting. Come on, shout it out. You were dead, but God. You got to think about that. Listen, give me your eyes. You are born in a state of spiritual death, conceived under the curse of the law. It is not baptism. It is not confirmation. It is not giving money. It's not baptism by immersion. It's not going to what we call the hip church or the hipster church or the right church. It's understanding the solas. It's going back. What saves a person? You were dead, he made you alive. So but God, being rich in mercy, didn't give you what you deserved. He let you be dead. But because of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead, in our trespasses made us alive together with Christ. Read it with me. By grace, come on, by grace you have been saved. Give me your eyes. But that word is charis in the Greek language. Keratou at times, which means it is a divine favor that only comes from God. The Roman Catholic Church says, no, it comes through us. Islam says it comes through us. Comes from God the Father, Son, and Spirit alone. And it, like C.S. Lewis said, it surprises us with great joy. The Apostle Paul was going to kill Christians. You know that? In Rome, in Acts chapter 9, on his way to kill Christians. He had warrants for the rest to kill them. Drag out moms and dads and families. He was dead under the curse of the law, and yet he thought he was doing right. He was ignorant until the favor, the grace of God exploded into his life. Here, let me give you a definition of, you're not going to be able to write this down, just listen. Grace. God's grace is his loving favor that alone freely gives individuals the ability. You can write that word down, ability. I want you to write that word down and think about it. Write the word down, ability. He gives ability to comprehend. You can write ability to comprehend their need for Christ's saving works and commit themselves to his cause. It never comes from man or man's religious systems. It is sola gratia. It is favor alone. It does what? What does it do? It gives man the ability. Say the word ability. You didn't have it. You were dead. When I was a kid, I used to sneak through the streets of Chicago. We had a funeral home by our house. I used to want to sneak in there and see if I could get the dead guys to sit up. Now you're going, you are messed up. I mean, I was a little street urchin. Out of the funeral home door would be open. You see the bodies going in. You're going, I know there's something I can do to get those guys to sit up. There's got to be something I can do. But I didn't understand death. And we don't understand spiritual death. It is an incredible explosion of divine favor that surprises a person and knocks them off their horse and makes them lay there and go, who are you, Lord? Save me. One author says this, a person who is, John MacArthur, one of my favorite guys, says, a person who is spiritually dead has no life by which he can respond to spiritual things. He has no capacity to respond. An old Scottish commentator said, it's a case of, you guys will relate to this, it's a case of death walking. Men apart from God are spiritual zombies, the walking dead. The walking dead who don't know they're dead, but they're dead. And a person without Christ, understanding, is dead. And a person who thinks they have Christ may still be dead because they're not going back to the roots. They're not relying on sola gratia, grace alone. When I was a kid, I got a call, and my mother said, you got to come home. Death. So I was like third, fourth grade. I ran home. And she said, in the kitchen, on the floor. And I ran in there, and there was my little hamster. Squeaky, just laying there. You know, it's traumatic when a little boy or girl, you know, you lose a little pet. It's horrifying, even if it's a little frog or a lizard. You know, they lay there. I mean, looked like this little, I burst into tears. And I looked at my mother and said, did you do everything you could do? I mean, well, what's my mother going to do? Right? Is my mother going to get down and get the hamster mouth to mouth? Come on, little hamster. Come on, little hamster. Come on. I mean, Mom, did you do everything? Yeah, we did. We took a little dropper and put milk into there, and I rubbed its little chest, and did you pray? Did you pray? Come on, it was horrible. That little guy used to climb in bed with me and sleep on my neck and nibble on my ears. Now he laid there just stiff. So I put him in a cigar box. Did this whole funeral thing, walked out in the backyard singing hymns with my hamster in my box. My neighbors are like, he is a little sick kid, But there was nothing I could do and my mother could do. Death is death. If you don't get this, you don't understand grace and you don't understand Christ. And the foundational pillars, it's been lost. During the medieval period in the Dark Ages, the church said it comes through us. It comes through our sacraments. And some churches say it comes through our baptism. It comes through things that you do. It comes through being a part of, it's through Sola Gratia, grace alone. We're not going to look at it just because of time again, but one of the scariest stories in the Bible is in 2 Samuel chapter 6. I want you to read it tonight alone, by yourselves. 2 Samuel chapter 6, read the first 20 verses. Verses 1 through 20. Give me your eyes. We're not going to read it right now. We got to go. But you'll read it when you're done. Read it alone. Because it's going to remind you how important. Give me your eyes. Give me your eyes. 2 Samuel chapter 6, verses 1 through 20. Give me your eyes. There's a guy in the story named Uzzah. He was a priest. I'm going to try to capsulize and paraphrase his story. Listen. David had defeated everybody, and the ark of God, the ark of the covenant, had come back to Israel. God said, this is where you meet with me. This is where you meet with me. I'm here. The law was in there and the rod and all of them. They carried it. There were rules how to carry it. Now listen carefully. And so they wanted to celebrate. They wanted to dance and party and feast. And God's in our presence. We've defeated all the enemies. God's done incredible things. We want to celebrate and party. And so they walked a few steps. But they had taken the ark and they put it on a cart with some animals pulling it, some oxen, an oxen cart. They were supposed to carry it a very, very, very specific way. God, way back, had given very careful, specific, doctrinal teachings. This is how you do it, just like the roots. But they forgot about it. They lost it. And so the ark started to slip, and Uzzah, one of the priests, put his hand out to catch it. Can't let the ark of God fall. It was never supposed to be on there, but they were careless. And God killed him. And we laugh at that. But David became angry. He was furious. And it wasn't that he was angry at God. Listen. He was the king and responsible for all of his people, and they were careless and had not gone back to investigate how to get it right. They didn't go to the solas, in a sense. They didn't go to the foundational principles of how do you move this ark? How do you do this? So David said, get rid of it. Give it to Obed-Edom. Get rid of it. Until he went back. He sent his men back. You read Chronicles. He sent his men back to go back to the roots and find out how to do it right. So our lives aren't threatened and we can celebrate the goodness of God in our presence. That's what I want for this weekend. If nothing else, I prayed, God, give these guys, just give them, spur them on in love. They're going to go back and look at this. Let them be concerned about those incredible foundational principles that come from Jesus, that came through the apostles' teachings. The church exploded in grace and love, and it was lost. And today, to a certain degree, it's lost. And George Barna, this Christian guy, says it's gone. We're not protesting. We're compromising. We're joining everybody else saying it's okay as long as we throw some of the right words around together. And it's a problem. I was on a job site years ago before I got in ministry, and I got there. I was selling to some builders. I got there, and the second story of this huge building that was being built had just collapsed. I mean, it had collapsed. And guys were injured to the point of life and death. And I stood there amazed. It had collapsed the day before. And I went up to one of the guys and I said, well, what happened? He said they looked and found out that the foundation was not laid properly. It wasn't secure. And it collapsed. I said, you know, I almost came yesterday, and I would have been on that second floor. And I would have been in that pile of concrete, perhaps dead. Because somebody was careless and didn't secure the foundation. I'm asking you not to be careless. Your life, death, eternity is a part of all this. I'm asking you to pray about it, think about it. Invite God to stir your brains. Father, help us to think about this. Thanks for these students. Thanks that they're willing to listen. God, I really beg you that we invite you, we plead with you that you would stir the minds of the students and the leaders, myself, that we would understand these foundational pillars, how absolutely essential they are to the future life that we live on this earth and eternity. That we'd go back to the seed, Jesus, you. What you taught, those beautiful pillars, those roots, that the apostles spread throughout the world. And the church blossomed. And then it was lost. It was gone, but in your kindness, you brought it back. Oh, Father, raise up a generation of students that will fight for you, for the pillars, for truth. We invite you. Shake us up.